Well, hello everybody. This is Dave Dominguez with Cross Country Mortgage, and today I'm joined with Matt Skidmore. He is the MS of KMS, if I'm right.
That's right.
Okay, and chances are, if you've bought a home in Tucson in the last 10 years, you may have bought one of his houses. Uh, KMS has been a huge force here in Tucson as far as real estate investment goes, with uh, remodeling houses and reselling to rental properties. And so really happy and humbled to have Matt Skidmore on here today. So thank you, Matthew, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. It's always good to meet up and talk with you.
Cool, right on. So um, I get hit up by a lot of people. It goes through phases, but you'll notice, like, if there's a new seminar or a new book that comes out that talks about how to get into real estate with no money, things like that, they come and find you, and then you kind of have to let them down softly that it's not the way it really is, but so I wanted to touch on that, but I guess I want to go back in time. When did you start getting into flipping houses, or what was your first investment in real estate?
So yeah, our first investment in real estate, my business partner in KMS is Kyle Mokhtarian. So actually KMS stands for Kyle Mokhtarian and then Matthew Skidmore. And we just dropped one of the M's off. So that's really where KMS comes from.
Gotcha.
But we bought our first investment property. I want to say it was back like in the late 90s. I would say 1999, 1998, 1999, somewhere in that area.
And how old were you at the time?
I was about 30 years old.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, about 30. Late 20s,
Mhm.
almost 30. So wasn't a spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
So we ended up buying two fourplexes side by side. There were one fourplex is here, one fourplex is there. And when we bought it, we had a friend of ours from college who did some investment properties. My stepdad had done a few rental homes and stuff, and we were kind of familiar with the concept. And we bought those two fourplexes thinking we were going to put them on 15-year fully amortized mortgages. We're going to pay them off, and in 15 years, we had $2,500 a month coming in, free and
Right.
clear. And that was going to be our retirement play. And
Nice.
we both had our we both had our other jobs, and luckily we both had businesses that we were, kind of family businesses that we went into, which afforded us a little freedom to maneuver around the real estate and kind of take care of some things, run out during the middle of the day, go collect rents, and
Right.
go show a unit to fill it up. And we bought those two fourplexes and filled them up and ran them. And we said, hey, this is not too hard.
Sure.
And 6 months later, we got an offer from somebody to buy them. And we kind of thought, like, oh, there's no reason to really sell it right now because they're kind of running themselves now.
Right. Yeah.
So we kind of threw back a counter offer that was a lot more than what he had offered, and he said yes. And we ended up selling it and making about as much in that transaction as we did in a whole year of work.
Wow.
And the light bulb went off, and then we started going out and buying a whole bunch of stuff. And so really, we started the KMS LLC, I think in 2000 or 2001. So we just, after that, it was kind of on. We
Right
really
on.
went and heavily invested in a lot of different properties, and we probably learned the most in that next 5 to 10 years, five to
Those are
eight.
tough times. I mean, in the early 2000s, well, the early 2000s was gravy, but then you get to 07, 08.
Yeah, so luckily, like the way, I used to kind of say, like, we weren't lucky, we worked really hard, and we did, but
Yeah.
we were really lucky. We were really lucky that things just lined up and the timing was really, really good. We got into real estate and we spent that next 7 years learning a lot. And And during that time, the market's just shooting up,
Right.
and single family homes are shooting up, and apartments are shooting up, and we ended up doing, the cheapest. I always make the joke, if there's a class F property, we were interested in it. Yeah,
Right.
there were tough ones. So we were buying like small multifamily properties because
Mhm.
homes had went up so fast. We really liked the idea of buying single family homes. And we kind of figured that out in about 2003, 2004. But then the homes went up so fast and so high that Kyle and I would talk about it. We were like, man, we missed the boat, man. We had a chance to buy all those homes that would work at the rents that they were at, and we missed the
Right.
boat. And so when 2008 came, uh, it was like Christmas time. It was like all those houses that we wanted are not only
Huge.
at the prices that they were before, but they were much lower,
Right.
and the investment was much better. So we lost quite a bit of money on paper for all the stuff that we were still holding. We were holding a few hundred units in apartments, but we had good financing on them. One of our basic investment premises was, buy everything like you're going to hold it for 30 years. If it doesn't work for the 30-year hold, then do not buy it. And
Wow.
that saved us. That primary principle in my mind, as I look back on it, was the reason why we flourished during the downturn, and I think continue to flourish, as we're going along. So, now we have over 1,000 rental homes.
Wow.
And we're kind of doing it in like 4 or 5 different states. And so,
What states are you guys? I mean, Arizona's where you started, but
and
what states
that's
are
our
you
that's
guys?
our biggest concentration of properties. I think we have about 650 homes here in the greater Tucson area. We have I think a few hundred homes in Florida, all over Florida, and then we have a few hundred homes in Missouri.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
then we have some other stuff scattered around. We have a handful in Indianapolis, Alabama, Mississippi, a few in West Virginia. Um,
You
and
and I had talked about that. When I every now and then I get an itch and I want to buy an investment property and start looking. And I think that Tucson over the last couple of years, the rent just doesn't match the sales price a lot of times. The numbers don't pencil out. And
they don't.
so you and I talked about, looking at houses in like Missouri or outer lying areas of Illinois and stuff that you can still get a place for, 200 grand, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and the numbers pencil out at that point as far as rent goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our premise for moving to Kansas City.
Hmm.
Uh, over the last like 5 years, 6 years here, the prices of houses just went up so fast, and they're so high, even with interest rates being, so low, they just
Yeah.
don't pencil out. They just don't make sense. And so I decided that I wanted to, go to Kansas City, Missouri, and I put together a team. The crazy part is I never flew out there. I did it all remote.
Wow.
I would just do it all over the phone. I found some really good guys. I met them. I had so many calls and Zoom meetings with them, and got pretty comfortable with them. And I actually talked to a lot of people that knew them, and I got pretty good
Kind of
feel.
vetted them out.
They were decent people, and I put together a program, and we ended up buying about 150 homes. And we started right before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, it shut us down for almost a year. Like
Right.
Kansas City really grinded to a halt. And but when we got back on track, we put together almost 100, and we bought about 150 houses. 30 or 20 of those, I think we ended up, doing flips on, and,
Hmm.
and then the other ones we all kept for rental. So I have this nice rental portfolio, and I was shooting for the 1% rule, which, if you're familiar with that, is that I wanted to buy houses where my all-in price, my all-in cost, I would be able to get 1% rents of the all-in cost. So out there, what ended up happening is I was buying homes for on an average of $85,000 each. I would
Wow.
put an average of $40,000 rehab into the properties. So I'd
So
be an
125 roughly,
125,000, and I average $1,250 a month in rent.
the 1% rule.
1%. Yeah, and that doesn't really take into consideration interest rates. So even at the 1% rule right now, it's hard to cash flow those properties. And I'm a big believer that you shouldn't be buying investment properties unless there is some, you know, there actually won't be cash flow at the end of it, because you'll end up running into problems and having to put money back into it. But at least then you're covered. You know, you don't have to feed it every month, which I think is a tough situation for a lot of investors to go into. And I get a lot of investors coming to me every every week and saying,
Right.
hey, I found that, I think even you sent me one not too long ago, and I said, Dave, I'd stay away from that. That one's gonna be a
Which
little
is,
tough.
it's the best, sometimes no is the best answer to get, so yeah, so I've got my Excel spreadsheets and things like that, and I look at it and nope, I haven't found one yet, that seems to fit in the Tucson area.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like the best advice that I could probably give to somebody wanting to get into the real estate investment businesses. For so long, Kyle and I only ever entertained buying houses in the Tucson area because we could drive over and see it.
Right.
And, I mean, we just went into, Florida and, 5 years ago, and we did that with partners who are in Florida.
Right.
It's several years ago, it was before I went into Kansas City. It was kind of like the main last push that got me into it. But a pretty smart investor guy I know said, when's the last time you drove to one of your rentals?
Right. Even if it is down the street.
Good point.
Right.
Good point. So to me, the thing that comes out of that, the message and the lesson to learn is that you should invest anywhere where the deals really work, not because they're in your backyard.
Right.
With the technology we have today, with the internet, with the software that we have, with Zoom, with FaceTime, all these tools that we have at our disposal, you
don't need to fly out there. You don't need to
fly. I bought all those homes, and I have not been to Kansas City yet.
Dude, you gotta go get some barbecue or something,
I know I should. I wanted to go out to see a Chiefs game at least,
Right? You gotta. So wow, so 1,000 rentals. How many flips are you guys doing, say a year nowadays?
So this year, I think we're on pace for about 200 to 225 flips, which is down. That's about half of what we normally were doing in the last 5 years.
Sure.
When the market adjusted last year, which I'm not sure if you remember that on your side of it, Dave, but
roughly it was in the summer. Not 23, but 22. June, July of 2022 is when rates really started to go up, and we saw people starting to rethink things, and it's been increasing ever since then.
And we really saw the market shift hard on us probably last October-ish. Really taking hold in November. And because we were flipping so many homes, when you flip 400 or 500 homes a year, you have a big inventory. So we had over 300 homes, I think, in process when the market was shifting on us. And for us, it's it is a small margin game. The HGTV flipping shows where you make $75,000 a flip, that's not accurate. So,
right. And that's what's unfortunate. What's unfortunate, man, is like someone sees that and they get a little money, maybe they have an inheritance or they pull like a line of credit on their house and they're, I'm gonna get into house flipping. I'm gonna do 2 of them and I'll be set. And no, you have to, those margins are thin, especially right now.
I always tell people, be prepared to lose on your first 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That's the learning curves. That's
it
where
really
you
is.
That's where you really start putting it together. And I've actually had some younger guys come, and take me to lunch and go through it. And I'll break it down to them like how I think it's going to go. And they're kind of like amazed that it's not, like the HGTV channel.
Right. Where everything's a win and the guy that's a butterfly collector can buy $1 million house, and yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, what was my next question? So, if you're looking at a flip, you're like, I want to get into flipping. What sales price to end result? What kind of margin are you looking at uh, to decide to go forward on something?
Yeah, that's a great question,
Or is it
Dave.
kind of a gut feeling? You know,
Yeah, we've never really had a set percentage that we wanted to make. The way KMS got bigger is that we decided we were going to work off of just net dollars instead of
Mhm.
percentages.
Sure,
We felt like percentages would limit you on one end and cap you on another one, right? So
right,
uh, we kind of we kind of came up with a minimum a number that we wanted to make on a flip. If there's a
sure,
full remodel, we say, hey, if we can net $20,000 on a full remodel, which is a lot of work, 50, sixty
right,
thousand dollar remodel, we'd be happy with that. And so that's kind of how our basic premise started, and that's what we shot for. I know other investors that say they want to make a minimum of 10 or 15 or 20% net profit. I think that limits you on what you can buy a lot.
yeah.
But it's also a safe way to go. Some people,
It
they
is, but you end up. I think you're right with the percentage. You kind of get lost in the minutia and the um. You end up, like you said, limiting yourself. If you know what the end result dollar amount that you want, you know what kind of house to look for, how much to spend on rehabbing, how long you need to keep it for or not keep it for. You know, um, one of the things that I think a lot of investors don't take into consideration is the holding cost.
Mhm.
Uh, and you see them holding on to these properties a lot longer than they should have. And that eats away at the profit big time, you
That's
know?
probably, in my mind, that's probably the number one mistake that most investors make is that they don't have their operations dialed in. They don't get the flips done fast enough,
Right.
uh, and they don't move that house through the process fast enough. And with private lenders like myself that charge pretty good interest rates,
Right.
and you know, it used to just be you used to just worry about taxes, insurance, utilities, and the interest running on it. But we have a new phenomenon now, and one of the biggest problems that we have is squatters and people breaking into your houses.
Oh
The
man.
longer it's empty, the greater chance that's going to happen. And they
Right.
go in and they cause some damages. They'll steal things out of there, and that's a huge risk when you're selling something. So we you know we always feel like getting the house done the absolute fastest. Like if you buy a house on MLS and you have a 20-30 day period where you're going to be closing
Right.
this deal, I think you should have all your crews and all your materials picked out and
Just
everything ready to
use that
go.
time
Use that time.
before you even own it, just to line stuff
Absolutely.
up.
Yeah. Get,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, take the time, send the roofer over there, get bids. You can do a lot of the bids from outside the house. Uh,
True.
you can
Yeah.
take, you can spend one day, have your real estate agent go over there and meet you and bring in, three different guys to give you different bids on the interior work that you're going to do. But utilize that time, and then the day that you close, be
Yeah.
moving fast, get the thing done, and really try to limit your holding time, and that really helps the process.
It does. The last flip that I was a part of where my wife and I bought a house with the intent of remodeling it and stuff. It the problem was we did all that in the beginning, but then as people started working on stuff, they found new things to work on. It was one of those where you got to replace the sink. Well, now you got to fix the plumbing, and now you got to fix this to get that. Just everything became 2 or 3 steps more than what we had anticipated. And while we owned it, I think we owned it a total of 3 months. Um, we had to replace the big window in the living room 4 times because somebody kept throwing rocks through it.
Mhm.
You know, like it just. But I ended up like getting to know the window guy really well by the end of the whole deal. You know, I need another one, man. You know, um, so yeah, so getting stuff in and out and fast. But squatters, I mean, good Lord, I never had to deal with that. Um, that's a thing.
So
It's
it's
not
a
just on
real,
TV or YouTube. It's
unfortunately, it's a real thing these days, and you have to be very careful. Like, um, people ask me all the time, how come you guys don't put your appliances in the houses? You put pictures of the appliance, and then we go see the house, and there's no appliances in there. How come you don't put those in there? We lost 25 sets of appliances in less than like 3 months.
dude.
And
Wow.
somebody knew we were putting brand new appliances in. They were targeting our listing, and we couldn't even get them out fast enough or do anything fast enough. They would just disappear over the weekend, and we ended up losing 25 sets of appliances that were out there. So, uh, you know,
Yeah.
having having your exposure limited by faster rehabs and making those little small pivots, like don't put the appliances in there. Make friends with the neighbors. Take them a $25 gift card and say, hey, here's my number. Call me if you see anybody hanging out on the patio, or you
Right.
anything happen. Nobody should be over here after dark and on the
Right.
weekends. That really helps. And you just have to kind of think your way through those little things, and those really
Yeah.
help save you some money and some aggravation down the road.
Yeah, I mean, $25 to Chili's is nothing compared to a few $1,000s in appliances. Yeah, that's a great
Absolutely.
idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
and plus, the more you make friends with the neighbors, the less you tend to have the city of Tucson showing up, checking
oh,
checking you out if you're not, if you're doing things without permits and stuff like that.
right.
A lot of the neighbors, and you go over and you just have that nice conversation with the neighbor, like, hey, I'm trying to clean this place up and fix this so that you have a nice place, and we're going to sell it to a nice family.
Yeah.
Uh, and you still have neighbors that are maybe not so happy that you're doing some stuff for whatever reason, but it does
Yep.
help. We've been really lucky. We've had a lot of neighbors save us. They'll call us and be like, hey, those people just jumped the fence and they're back again. And
Wow.
you take off and you go over there and you find people before they make a mess of
They
your
set up
house.
camp.
Yeah, before they set up camp.
Uh,
So it's a really good strategy.
well, if you think about it, I mean, you guys are providing a great service to that neighborhood. You know, the houses that you guys are buying are probably a blight to that neighborhood. You know, they're bringing down the value to the people around them. You guys come in and you totally clean them up and make them look sharp and HD TV ready. Um, and then the values all around go up thanks to you guys, you know?
And these vacant houses, they're the source of more bad activity, and they draw more of those people
Oh,
into
yeah.
the neighborhood. It's a beacon.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get some of those people in there, and then they just attract more of those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting it fixed up, getting them sold to a nice, good family that's coming in there, that helps those neighborhoods. I'm
Uh,
surprised more of the people aren't more pro people coming in fixing up the houses, and you know
well, you
us
always got those Karens, you know?
us flippers get a bad reputation, but it is actually nice to see. You take a drug house that's had squatters and drug addicts in those houses, and you get that cleaned out, you get the house fixed up, you get a nice family that moves back in there. That problem's gone. you know
Exactly. You
those people
know,
aren't those people aren't stealing the stuff out of your mailbox and out of your carport and your backyard anymore.
right. Yeah. You know, so often I get like first time home buyers who want to buy a fix up house. So they're like a young couple and they have this idea that they want to fix it up together and stuff. And I'm so hesitant with couples like that because I've done that and it's a drag. It's not like how they make it look on TV. You know, nothing
No,
goes right. And so
no.
I'm like, just for your first place, find a place that's been fixed up. You know, maybe you want to change the colors on the wall. That's a good project. but a total rehab for your first house together? No. Yeah.
It's tough, and it's a tough business. Managing contractors is tough business. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely start off a little small if you can, or
Right.
start off with a great deal. I always tell people, you can start off with a great deal, you'll learn a lot, and
Right.
you're relatively risk-free going into that deal. So, start off with a really great deal, and that's where you should focus, finding great deals.
So that brings me to my next question. How do you guys find your deals? Like, how do you find the next flip or the next rental? Do you have people searching for you, or are you just driving around? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so my business partner handles most of the acquisition stuff on our end. We have traditionally been big auction buyers. We go to the auction
Mhm.
every day and buy houses. There hasn't been a lot of auction sales through COVID. There's been, moratorium on a lot of evictions
I
and
was going to say that
foreclosures.
the COVID thing is actually going to be running out soon. The
Yes.
the perfect so it'll be interesting to see if foreclosures start to increase. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, we're in this weird space. I feel like back in 2008,
Oh,
the
yeah,
government didn't seem to care if you got foreclosed on. Now it seems like the government's putting a lot of pressure on banks not to foreclose. So we've gone through that. In my opinion, it's a social change.
right.
We're not foreclosing on people even if they're not making their payments, and it's kind of weird, but that's kind of the thing we're in. But there are some foreclosures still happening. We find properties off market, direct to seller.
Hmm.
We find properties on the MLS. We find properties through wholesalers. We find properties through real estate agents, through auctions. Any which way you can find a house, we are trying to find houses
Right.
that way.
Yeah,
And
you guys
that's
have
why I
such a
tell
big
everybody,
vacuum.
yeah,
Just
I tell everybody, reach out to your network first.
yeah,
Go if you have real estate agents, if you have neighbors, friends. Um, social media is a very powerful thing. You start
right.
putting out there that you're looking for deals, and yeah, you'll get deals coming your way.
Yeah, right on, right on. Now the other thing that you guys are involved in is lending. Uh, uh, there's a thing out there. I don't know if my audience knows too much about it or not, but it's called private lending. It's um, it's where a human lends another human money to buy a house or to fix something up. It's outside of the traditional mortgage world where Fannie and Freddie Mac make up the rules and things like that. So when did you guys start getting into lending privately? How long has that been going?
Yeah, so KMS did some lending I think we started 6 or 7 years ago.
Hmm.
And we started lending to other flippers and guys that needed funds, and we were lucky enough to be in a position where we were able to go get a lot of institutional money and leverage all the houses we were buying up with institutional funds, that had pretty decent rates on it, and then
Right,
we would take our money that we were getting back from those, and we would lend that out.
right
Uh,
on.
and so we did a lot of that lending,
Hmm.
investment business
Right,
purpose lending.
yeah,
So we don't lend to anybody that is an owner occupied you know situation. But we did that 6 or 7 years ago, and now uh, Kyle and I have actually kind of separated out on our lending, and
hmm,
he runs his lending company, and me and my wife run our lending company, and we're doing a lot of lending and doing doing that service for a lot of people that are getting into that.
exactly. And I can attest to working with you guys, with you and Marcy, specifically as far as lending on investment properties or helping people do a flip and stuff. We have kind of I guess between you and I, we have a set number of clients that just kind of repeat. They buy something, they flip it, and then they come back. So they do like 3 or 4 flips a year. And, it's great because you guys, I can attest to the fact that you guys are very quick with your lending. There are different sources around in Arizona and other places and stuff for private financing. But it almost ends up being institutional where there's a lot to minutia to dig through, and you don't know if you're ever actually going to close. But if Matthew and Marcy give you the thumbs up, it's going to close. And so that's really great. And I appreciate it a lot.
Well, thanks for saying that, Dave. And yeah, the going through the institutional lender or the bank lender, the rates are better, but boy, it's tough. They ask for everything and they ask for it, many times over. So, they want a lot of documentation. They wait for appraisals to come back. They're waiting for, your reserves in your bank account to be where they need them to be. All these other items. And we kind of lend more on, personally, now that I'm doing my own lending, I really look at the borrower. I make sure that I feel very comfortable with who they are as a person.
Right.
If they have the capacity to handle a flip and that level of a flip, and if the deal is good, so I really evaluate the collateral well to make sure that I think they're going to be starting on a successful project. And I've told quite a bit of people no, like I don't see how you're going to make money on it. I could be wrong, but I don't want to be at the heart of that. I don't want to have to,
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to be
back
in a foreclosure and in a sticky situation. But honestly, there was a deal that I brought to you guys a year ago, and you said no, and that's cool. I'm never upset if you guys say no because it's your money. But that dude still has his flip. He hasn't flipped it yet. It's still a drywall, and it's been a year. So looking back, it's kind of amazing that you could sniff that out, because in my mind at the time, I was like, oh, it makes sense. This guy will do it real quick, whatever, this and that. And no, he hasn't. But the dudes that we've worked with repeatedly, they send me updates, and their places that we funded maybe a couple months ago will be up for sale, next week. So it's amazing. I think just through your own knowledge, and your wisdom, you can turn that into looking at a deal and say yes or no, or a person and say yes or no.
Yeah, you'd be amazed at the information. If you have a quick 5-minute conversation with somebody, you just ask them a few pointed questions. I feel like you can pretty quickly tell if that person's going to be able to succeed or not.
Right.
If they have the right frame of mind to handle the project, if they have the expertise, if they have the resources with their connections with people, with their funds to get the job done, if they know how to evaluate a property. That's one of the biggest things that I think people struggle with. They struggle with evaluating the property. They pick the kind of maybe that one outlier, really high comp, and think that's what they're going to get for theirs. But I
that house sold for that, man. Come on.
Exactly, yeah. But I find that more often than not, where people go wrong is the rehab, is getting the thing fixed up. They underestimate their costs. They underestimate the time. And then now in today's environment, I feel like we're getting into even a new era of having to do it the right way. I feel like you have to get permits and plans and using a licensed contractor to do this work. Otherwise, you get the city of Tucson coming in and shutting you down when they see your dumpster out in front of your house. And the city of Tucson officials are trained now to stop at every dumpster, every house with a roll off in front of it, and checking to see if there's permits pulled on that house. So it's become different. That can derail a guy that's starting off on his first house if he's not prepared for that. So
just ruins everything.
I've been doing a lot of educating on that because KMS has dealt with its fair share of those type of issues over the course of our 25 years in business. So
sure.
So it's it's knowing what you're getting into, and then and being able to execute. And the great part about this business is it's not difficult. It's not hard as far as understanding what to do. It's difficult to pull off the execution,
Right.
and you have to work extremely hard at that. But it's not, with the terms, not rocket science. You know, like
Yeah, what you're just trying to do is improve or fix a problem.
yeah,
My old mentor, Bill Anastopoulos, when I first got into mortgages, told me that all we're trying to do in this industry is fix a problem. Whether that's a house that burned down, or if it's a family that needs a home, or whatever. As long as you can fix a problem, you can generally make a profit. You just got to do it correctly and not create more problems.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many tools out there, Dave, for people that want to get started. Podcasts are available for free. You don't need to go out and pay a guru, $50,000 to teach you how to do flips. You can get all that information for free. You can go on many different podcasts, YouTube videos. There's tons of information out there available, and it's just right there at your fingertips. If you want to, the thing you have to do is you just have to work really hard to find a good deal, and then work really hard to take that deal from the state it's in to the end state that you're selling it in, and moving it out as quickly as you can. You do those things, I think most of the time you'll be successful.
Right on, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you being on here for this long and answering all these questions and stuff. So guys out there, what's a good website, or what's a good way for people to reach out to you if they have questions? How would they want to do that? Or how's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can just give me a call. My phone number is 520-204-2286. Call or text. I'm on the phone quite a bit, so texting is always good. Or you can email me. My email address is Matthew, MATTHEW, at flipfastloans.com. That's our lending company. Email me the information of that, or give me a call. We can discuss any deals you have, and talk. I can help talk you through a deal and do
or
it.
Talk you out of a deal.
Or talk. Sometimes I talk you out of a deal. I think we've done over 3,500 flips that we've bought and closed and sold. So we've done over 3,500 flips. In the Tucson and Florida areas. So it's I've seen a lot of deals. I know some of the challenges with all the different types of issues. So feel free to reach out to me, and we'll go over yours.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it again, Matthew. You have a great day. Okay.
Dave,
if I don't talk to you, have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Give my best to your family as well.
You too, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Dave.